Okay, everyone, we are recording. It is August, wow. It is already September. It's September 2nd, 10 a.m. This is our regularly scheduled department head meeting. It is being audio and video recorded. It's being streamed live on YouTube, where it will stay if you ever want to watch a replay of this. There are several ways that the public can participate. They can join the Zoom meeting, of course. They can dial in. They can send emails as well under public input. And with that, I ask that everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So the way that I do the meeting is I just open the floor to hear reports from the department heads. So if anyone wants to unmute themselves and give us an update, feel free to do so. You have the floor.
All right, I guess I'll go first since nobody else wants to jump in. Obviously, COVID's still going on. We had an election yesterday. We've had the warm up to it. Worked with Sue on that. Everything seemed to go pretty well with that. Obviously, it's a little bit of chaos trying to line it all up, but seemed to go off without a hitch. We had some issues with the tennis court, basketball court, and people thinking it was closed because of COVID, but it was because of vandalism. That's been fixed. The tennis court, basketball court, hockey court are all open again. Thank you, Mr. Berry, for repairing the damage. We have blocked off one of the nets and removed one of the hockey nets because you can't play any games. So all you can do is shoot around on the hoop and the net and do drills and that kind of stuff. So that's all underway. West Nile virus from Tripoli, we're advancing, but they sprayed a lot of the local communities around us, not in Dighton. And that seems to have kind of paused it momentarily, but it is still in the towns adjacent to us. So I fully expect at some point we will have issues with that, but as of now, we don't. And
no COVID in town.
Yeah, right now we have no active cases of COVID in Dighton, which is a good thing.
So that one, the one case that was, sorry, I'm sharing with Chris because I can't, something's wrong and I can't access the meeting. The one case that was reported by DPH has fallen off our 2-week time. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, they tested negative or whatever, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
They're all gone. We've had however many cases, dozens and dozens of cases, and they're all gone now. So we currently have 0 live cases. So I think that's all I got for now.
Todd?
Yep.
Did we have any fatalities?
I don't remember. I can check. I don't think we did, but I can check.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Does anyone have any anything else under reports from department heads? You can feel free to unmute yourself.
I do, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
the selectmen have called a special town meeting for November 16th. I just wanted to get that out there. I would appreciate it if it was just necessary expenditures. I still would like to remain cautious as we proceed in the fall. The state still hasn't set their budget, though they've promised us, they've promised us level funding from last year. So it's something for us to work off of, but I'm not comfortable and we shouldn't be comfortable. So really, if you absolutely need it, consider putting it forward. If it could possibly wait, please wait. The selectmen did lift the spending threshold, the spending freeze, and now assigned everybody a threshold. For most departments, it's $1,500 per order. That's collective items, not just one item. And then you have to fill out a requisition form. The easiest thing to do is just print out what you're ordering and then staple it to that requisition form, and then we'll sign it. If it's over the $1,500, it goes to the Board of Selectmen for a vote. For police, fire, and highway, that threshold's 3,000, but the same rules apply for everything else. That's all I have so far.
Thank you, Madam Administrator.
Dr. Z?
Yep, Chief, you have the
This
floor.
police chief, yes. This is to the Board of Health and to Todd. Todd, yesterday, evidently, the auction has been running, and I don't know if you went up there. I talked to one of my guys here and said that they had yesterday an auction, and they believe there was well over 200 people in there. What's up with the auctions, this one and the one on 138 here? Are they allowed to have people there now or no?
Yes, I want to have a meeting with you and Mallory and me to go over this. So auctions are allowed to happen. They are considered an outdoor event with a maximum capacity of 8 people per 1,000 square feet. And that's why North Country Auction could have many more people. The problem we had at Mannheim was that they were inside the building. And there was a discussion on whether or not it was considered a bit inside or outdoor event because they had all the garage doors open at the time. So they've asked us to come up and measure the building to determine if it's more than 50% walls or 50% walls, so we can determine the capacity of the building. So, but from what I understand, they have started doing their auctions again, and whether that means for a police detail, that's not my call. But yes, it does appear they had more than 200 people inside that building at one point in time.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Brett, if I may, I'll do a report on the counting right now. So you may have all received emails from me yesterday regarding budgets or your active budgets through the end of August. Typically I should be doing that once a month, but with the closing of the books for fiscal 20, I get a little behind. But that said, rather than just providing a summary of budget versus actual, I gave everybody a detail and an opportunity to review for accuracy and for completeness. And I appreciate that I've gotten a lot of feedback already, all positive so far. And again, if you find anything that looks out of place, just let Linda or I know, and we'll make the correction. The closing of the books for June 30th is in process right now. I just have some closing entries to make so that I can roll balances forward. So as soon as I'm done rolling balances forward, I can send out folks trial balances for their special accounts and whatnot, let everybody know where they stand. And you'll know exactly where you stand right through effectively August 31st anyway. That's all I have to report right now.
Dr.
Thank you so much. Sure,
How are you this morning? How's everyone?
I'm well. You have the floor, Mr. Rhines.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the Highway Department. I'm just speaking on behalf of being the Vice Chairman of the Parks and Recreation Commission for, fixing the tennis courts vandalism situation. And also to thank the Board of Health for their ongoing mission to get that facility open and get the proper signage up. So I appreciate everyone who's done all that for our residents, so we could have some, activities, athletic activities to be held down there. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I lost my thought for a second there, but no, I just want to thank everyone. As far as CPC wise, we're still accepting applications until November. Application process for eligibility is open until November of this year. And we're looking at, as a group, hopefully the library will have some information they can forward to us. And of course, we will not be able to act on it until at the annual town meeting. We don't have any other large items right now that we're looking at, other than I'm working to get information together in regards to the possible handicapped accessible playground in North Dayton. So, and I'm working with the town administrator on this, and we're going ahead, and we will not again, of course, go with CPC monies until the annual town meeting. So in regards to the planning board, we're pretty much squared away. We have our agenda set for next month. It's pretty light right now. And we don't really have any major items that are on right now for next month. We're looking at just a few Form As that have come in, and just another ongoing discussion, which is going to be like a working session with Mr. Castagnetti, who represents Long Built Homes, who would like to possibly build out the Hunters Hill subdivision. So that's what we're looking at right now. And we also have something that came in. Our agenda's been revised for a Midas site plan review on William Street. So we're moving ahead. Our office manager's doing a great job for us, and we continue to move forward with what we're doing. So we're moving ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Rhines.
Yes.
Does anyone else have any thing else they'd like to add under reports from department heads?
Dr. Z,
Sure, Selectman Goulart.
this is, as you ride around town, you all see these things going on. As you know, Pearl Street and Center Street sidewalks are finished. Somerset Avenue is under construction. And Tom, feel free to jump in anytime. We will, so that's wrapping up the big sidewalk project. Tom and I, working with Mallory, the next project we're on to is the boat ramp and the grant money that's been promised to us by the state for that project. And in the works also, that's still in the works, the city of Taunton has invited Dayton to work with it and the town of Rainham on an MS4 grant. So that's in the works. I don't have all the details on it yet, but Tom Ferry and I, and also Mallory, are working on that. So those are, so that's, we've got one project ending and we got one starting, and possibly that MS4 grant, which will bring some, I'll call it shared equipment if we're successful.
Nancy, may I ask you a question on a follow-up to that?
Yeah.
I had suggested adding in that barrier, the hurricane barrier project, because it wouldn't exceed that much money, and we only had, I think, 7,000 left. Did Jackham, did he shoot that down because it was the Taunton River?
I need a little more detail on that, okay? And just for the information of everybody listening, Taunton wants to get this MS4 thing, and initially there, it would be large solar powered signboards that would carry messages about stormwater. He's looking for a grant that's just over $50,000. Statewide, there's only 300,000 available, so we don't want to try to, grab everything. One of the selling points, and hoping it'll get approved, is that other communities are partners in this grant process. So what Mrs. Aaronstein is alluding to, we're looking at things that would tie the towns of Dayton and Rainham and the city of Taunton all together. And one of our main connectors is obviously the Taunton River. Also, we're connected because we all get sewer services from Taunton. And the other thing is we're looking at connecting through the Aggie School because we all have students there. So yeah, Mallory, if you could give me a little more info on that, I'll pass that on to Jack along with the other things that you and Tommy and I talked about, okay?
Yep, I will. Thank you.
Yep.
This is Jonathan Gale, and I'm audio only.
Hi, Mr. Gale.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to first, I haven't really had a chance to be on the last couple of months, so I wanted to thank all of the different department heads for participating in the ADA survey that was completed at the end of June. The report's available if any of you would like to read it at some point from myself or from the town administrator, but thank you for your participation and for doing your surveys and so forth. The commission is just about up and running. We have 4 people who are participatory so far. We've had another application come in today of someone who looks very promising. So hopefully the commission will have its first meeting within the next 2 to 2.5 weeks. And that will be 5 members to make up the commission at this point. And I'm expecting that over the next several months, the commission overall will probably want to also reach out to the different department heads to learn collectively more about what each of you do, what the roles are that the commission can play in supporting what you do and what your needs are and so forth for people with disabilities. So just keep that on your radar. We're moving forward thanks to the support of all of you and our town administrator. And that's all I have.
Dr. Zagrafis, if I may, just for a second.
Sure.
Mr. Gale, this message is for you, sir. Once I receive the engineering from MRC Recreation, I will be in touch with you so we can go over things and, get set up with how we're going to put the apparatus in up at North Dayton for the handicap playground.
And I appreciate that. I remember you mentioning that about a week ago or so. So it's on my radar here as well to follow up with you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Dr. Zagrafis, if I may, Mrs. Goulat, would you have your administrative assistant for Stormwater Committee send me down your meeting schedule, if they would please, via email?
Okay, we don't actually have a schedule, except we meet once a month. So the next meeting's coming up, and yeah, I will ask, obviously you're gonna get the agenda, but I'll ask Ross to pass that on to you. What we usually do is set the meeting, the next meeting at the meeting that before we end. And the reason we do that is because we never know when we're gonna have a project turn up or let me say, a neighborhood problem that has to come before the committee. So we try to remain flexible, but we'll get the next one off to you anyhow. I think it's the 15th of this month. Because I know the 15th of the month, that's the one when we're going to try to devote our time to wrapping up the MS4 report that's due on the 28th. But we'll get that out to you, Tim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Zagrafis.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any reports under department head reports?
Let me just jump in real quick. Roz just told me it's been added to the meeting for the 15th. She's going to send, Tim, she's going to send you some minutes from the past meeting so you can get up to speed. And as soon as the agenda gets finalized, we will send it over to you.
Thank you.
Nice. Does anyone have anything else under department head reports? Okay. Hearing nothing.
Well, I don't have anything under. Mr. Zagrafis, if I may, please. So I just wanted to bring to the Board of Selectmen's attention. I was informed today that the police department has a $500 gift that they've received. They were looking for an account number to make a deposit to, so I want to make sure that you folks are aware of that for acceptance purposes.
We're gonna put it on the 9th for you to formally accept.
Okay. Thank you. Next is vote to approve event on September 5th, 2020. And this is also a vote, I'm confused, to block the Veterans Memorial driveway. So Karen had briefly explained this, Mrs. Brady, but do you mind explaining, Mallory? Madam
No, I
Administrator?
don't, and I apologize for the mask if you can't, I'm trying to project. So you had discussed this event and specifically you voted on not waiving the insurance requirements at your previous meeting, but also what was in there was a request to allow for her to set up chairs in that horseshoe drive by the Veterans Memorial. So her plan is to come by and set up chairs, but we thought that it should really be blocked off so she can actually pull that off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
with the sawhorses.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's a right of way, you're gonna need to vote to close it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I move that we approve blocking off, closing the Veterans Memorial driveway during the event, the wedding event on September 5th.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll step down in second. I'll step down in second. Discussion? I think Selectman Pacheco is having audio. That's why he would have seconded that.
We can't hear you.
*6, Selectman Pacheco. Is that what it is, Mallory?
Yes. Try again. I can't hear him. Can anybody else?
He's not on mute on the thing. I can see his phone number.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
All those in favor? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
You would have seconded it, right, for the record?
Yes, I would have,
Okay,
yes.
I'm sorry. I saw you were struggling with the audio.
I have something telling me his bandwidth is very, very low.
Could be.
Could
I
be.
think I muted everyone in the beginning, and so his phone number was muted. That's why he had no audio. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it, and that motion passes.
Mr. Ferry, can you assist in doing that? We'll get to the hours. Will you assist in doing that for us?
I can. The barricades are stored behind the town hall if the family wants to just move them.
Tom, aren't you going to be away?
Yeah, I might be, personally, might be leaving Friday.
That's what I
Okay.
thought.
All right, we'll chat about it. We'll think about it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, and then there's a vote to approve an event on September 19th, 2020.
Dr. Z,
Sure.
at our meeting, when we didn't waive the insurance, did we vote to approve use of the gazebo? Because I noticed in the package, we have their insurance certificate. And I can't remember if we didn't waive the insurance, but did we approve use of the gazebo for that wedding?
I don't think they wanted to use the gazebo. I think they were wanting to put chairs out. Am I right?
I think they're gonna stand on the gazebo for the ceremony and the audience is gonna sit in the driveway.
If you could just vote, because I don't remember either, but I don't
That's what I'm
want
thinking.
some
yeah.
sort of
Okay.
block for
Okay.
her.
Mr. Chairman, I move
Yes.
that we approve the use of the gazebo for a wedding event on September the 5th.
Do we have a second? Okay, I will step down in second.
I'll
Discussion?
second that motion.
Okay. Selectman Pacheco seconds that motion.
I second the motion.
Yep,
Am I still here?
I can
Can you
hear
hear
you.
me?
It's really, you sound a little bit robotic though. Like a robot, but it's okay. There's clearly like an audio. I'm wondering why you're having issue with the phone though. That's the only.
Alexa, shut off.
It
Could
shows
be.
your phone is muted, Selectman Pacheco, but that your computer is where the audio is. That's why it's doing that weird.
It's still showing his bandwidth is very low and it could be potentially where he's located.
Okay. All right. Well, he seconded it. So hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That abstentions? Opposed? You were an aye, Selectman Pacheco, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay, thank you. And now we have a vote to approve an event on September 19th, 2020, and vote to waive fee for the event.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I move that we approve the Lions Club yard sale at the Highway Garage parking lot on September the 19th, and that we waive fees for the event.
we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll step down in second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have discussion. He's saying no. Ken, are you voting no? Okay. He's voting down.
Opposed, so Selectman Pacheco voted no. I know, I wish I could
Oh,
hear.
the entrance. So I have not, well, the gentleman who came in questioning that, he said he was gonna
Do
send
you mind muting yourself?
something from him yet, so.
I think it's Carrie, isn't it?
Yep, I'll
Okay.
mute her. Well, she is muted. I don't even know how we're hearing her. Okay. Now we have discussion of police detail at Trump drive-by parades down Route 138. I feel like this should just say political parades because that's really what we're discussing in general.
Dr.
Yes.
Z, just a
Yes.
question procedurally. I know Ken's having trouble trying to communicate. Does he want to speak? I know we voted, but he wasn't audible during the request for
I
discussion.
mean, if he wants to unmute himself and we can hear him, sure. You have the floor. I still can't hear you.
If you unmute on your phone, Ken, it's star
Yep.
6. Here we go.
I've hit it
Got you. We got
six
you.
times. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Regarding the highway department. I noticed that the insurance expires September 1st. So this is for September 19th.
Your insurance is expired June 1st.
What's that, please?
You're saying that the
Why is
insurance
there an
expired
echo?
June 1st?
It expires September 1st.
September 1st.
So they don't have insurance.
Mr. Ferry, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
What is going on with the echo? If you are not speaking, can you please mute yourself? Oh my Lord.
Mr.
Okay.
Ferry,
Yes.
how fast can you get that insurance renewed and get the certificate to the Leanne?
I'll check into it. They probably have the other certificates, just not at the town hall.
Okay.
Okay, I've muted everyone because someone is echoing. So if you'd like to speak, please unmute yourself.
Mr. Z, Dr.
Yep.
Z?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to propose an amendment to the motion that I made, that approval of the event is contingent on receiving the insurance renewal notification as soon as possible.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it and that motion passes.
Okay, that's the amendment. Now we got to vote on the original motion as amended, Dr. Z.
Okay. Sure. And so, don't we have to make a motion on it? Or
No,
do
no, you just called the vote on the original motion as amended.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The ayes have it. That motion passes. Anything else before we move on? Okay, we're moving on. Bear with me one moment. Okay, so this item, I requested it to be on the agenda. I had heard that there were going to be parades every Saturday from now until November. And so I just wanted us all to be on the same page. The Board of Selectmen, public safety. Okay. Everyone is muted again. So let me start again. So I wanted everyone to be on the same page in terms of how we're going to handle these events going forward. And just to be clear, this discussion would apply across the board to all political events, regardless of what the political affiliation is or the specific cause. And so every event and every person would be treated fairly and equitably. It's my understanding that the organizer of the last two events, which occurred the last two Saturdays, had contacted the police department, who out of safety concern, based on the number of potential participants, did block traffic at the corners of Center and Somerset in order to route the traffic safely out of town. And so going forward, which is why I put this on the agenda, I think that what should happen is when the organizer contacts DPD, for example, if they contact them directly instead of the selectman's office, they should notify the organizer of the need to provide their own escort, but that the traffic would be blocked, obviously, in order to route the parade out of town safely. And if it's a parade, like what has occurred the last 2 weekends, then I think they also need to notify the organizer of the need to obtain a permit from the Board of Selectmen. And so my personal opinion on this is that I will always issue a permit, and I've said this before, because I just believe in freedom of speech and that people should have the right to peaceably assemble, whether I personally agree with it or not. And so the only thing is, just in the sense of de-escalating any potential political tensions in town, in the interest of our town and our community, I would issue the permit, or may issue the permit, for a different date and time if the parade is specifically planned in response to another political event that was planned. And so that's why I put this on the agenda. And I will open it up to anyone else that wanted to speak on this topic.
Can you hear me?
Yep, perfectly.
Yes. I was also concerned that the police gave an escort, but I was also concerned that they stopped the traffic. I don't understand the safety issues regarding the stopping the traffic. If you have a red light, you can't go through. You got a green light, you go through. So I'm not sure why we would tie up a police officer to stop the traffic on 138. I happen to be there on the other side holding a political sign, and I noticed cars were passing because they were frustrated with having to wait. Secondly, I don't know why they weren't asked to pay for a detail. We have other groups in town that have asked for police assistance. For example, WAG did throw some Easter candy out around Easter, and they were required to have hire a detail, to hire a police officer with a cruiser. I get that. I understand that. I don't understand why this other group was allowed to have a parade going through town and not have to pay. So I'm a little upset about the fact that they didn't have to pay. We tied up 2 police cruisers. We tied up 2 police officers. People in town are concerned about speeding on William Street, Pleasant Street, Forest Street, and many streets. I always tell them we don't have enough police officers to watch that, but yet on Saturday, we tied up 2 police officers and 2 cruisers. So apparently we do have enough to monitor these streets. So I'm upset about the way this happened. You know, they drove by, they swore at us, they called me a mother, and the police department was escorting this group of people. I don't care what your politics are, but if you want a parade through town, get a permit and pay for a detail. Thank you.
Do you mind if I mute you? Because it is, there was a really loud sound that was jarring coming from the audio. Okay. I would agree with those statements. The only, yes, Chief, 1 second. The only thing I would say to you, Selectman Pacheco, I agree with everything you said, but I was on the corner 2 Saturdays ago during the first parade, and I will say there were definitely people, so they were not routed 2 weekends ago, and there were folks part of the parade who were literally going through the red light without anyone, just going through the red light. And so I actually do think there was a bit of a safety concern without having the intersection blocked. There definitely were people going through yellow and red lights, and it was, quite frankly, a little hairy 2 weekends ago. Chief McDonald?
Thank you, Dr. Z. First, let me just explain how this started. On Friday, last Friday, the day before the rally they had there on Saturday, the resident had called me. She had talked to me and said that they were going to do another one for Saturday. I spoke to her. I asked her how many cars we were actually having. She thought around 60 cars again, and they were going to be leaving from the old Raytheon plant, coming down 138, and they were going to take a left on the center to head into Berkeley. After I talked to her, I had spoken to my officer, the OIC, that was going to be on Saturday, and I directed him to maybe assist him at the intersection on 138 Center Street. Due to the fact there was 60 cars, I mean, I'm looking at a public safety issue, roadway issue where I don't want to see an accident there. I'm looking out for the people. So he did that. He went down there, and it started around 8:30. They were going to head out. So he went to Raytheon, and when he got there, there was well over 60 cars. There was like 135 cars that he saw. So he took it upon. He says, "Well, I'm going to assist them with this to get him into Berkeley." Believe me, everybody, this was not a political view for this. This department would not do that. I wouldn't allow that. I'm looking at for the safety of the public, the safety of people, the traffic. There was a lot of cars there. There was people standing at the corner. I understand too. Everybody was standing there too, and I get that. And I'm not here, and I'm going to say it again. It wasn't a political view. I had a long discussion with the town administrator, Mallory. I spoke to Dr. Z. I spoke to Mr. Selectman Pacheco, and I agreed, especially talking to the town administrator. I didn't see it. I wasn't there, but it was. You look at it, it looked like a parade, and I get that, and it didn't. It didn't look good, but for my side view, I am looking at for the safety of everybody. That's what I'm looking at, and you know, I told the officer to do that, and if I offended somebody, I'm sorry to everybody of that, but that's not the way I work. I'm here to make sure that the town is safe, and if this happens again, and I agree with Selectman Pacheco, they need to get a permit. They need to hire a detail. Exactly, he's right. I mean, I am running with two guys on a Saturday. They should have been patrolling, but I looked at it as a view. It was going to take 10 or 15 minutes. If we had an accident at the corner, then it would have come back and say, hey, what's going on? How come no one was there? How come no one was assisted them? So I just want to let everybody know that. Thank you, Dr. Z.
Thank you, Chief. And I think it's important for me to interject at this point that taking aside what this specific parade was in favor of, that's not what I care about. I'm just talking about we need to have an understanding, all of us going forward, for any events of this nature, how we're going to handle them. And so that's why we're discussing this. So I just wanted to remind us all of that as we continue our discussion. Selectman Goulart? Sure.
So I was not aware of this until I was leaving the post office later that morning, and I saw some vehicles with flags and stuff and realized there must have been a parade. I heard about all of the situation and the swearing and everything else. So I've got a bunch of questions that need to be answered. First of all, if the vehicles were going south on 138 and then turning left to go to Berkeley, that would have meant that Center Street would have been shut down, and so would, what about 138 northbound? I would assume that was shut down. You can't shut down a state highway without permission from the state. Did anybody get that? Number one. Number two, I mean, we even have to get permission. We had our anniversary, you know, it's anyhow, something to think about because it's a state highway. I think a permit is in order. And if they're going to have them scheduled, whatever the dates are, a permit could be issued that had multiple dates. I agree that there has to be police involvement, detail, escort, whatever you want to call it. I want to know who enforced the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on the Berkeley-Dighton Bridge, because my guess is that wasn't enforced. Because, quite frankly, all of us know when you go down the road, you continue to gain speed. So if you're not riding the brake, you're doing a lot more than 20 when you cross that bridge. I have concerns that I witnessed was there were vehicles with Rhode Island plates, the ones that I saw. Well, as we know, and if you saw the paper or if you've been on a state highway like 195, there are signs lighted telling people from Rhode Island they must register. Now, I can't even go to East Providence to a favorite restaurant because I would be violating the governor's order. And yet you're telling me that people can come into this state and attend an event and go back to Rhode Island, and there's no concern about the pandemic and the regulations that we all have to follow as residents of the state. I really think that there needs to be a meeting with the organizer of the event, or whoever requested the detail, whoever's in charge, because there needs to be a discussion about, quite frankly, the conduct of people who are participating in the event, parade, whatever you want to call it, because I don't even have the right to go down the street and start swearing out my car window because I see somebody that I might not like their sign or something else. There's a conduct issue. I am certainly in favor of people expressing their viewpoints and everything else, but I think when it gets to the point, if there is swearing or name calling going on, that's the match that could light a fire. And I think ahead of time, maybe there should be a meeting to discuss, the peaceful parade of vehicles with their signs and their banners and that sort of thing. The other thing is there has to be traffic control, because let's assume if there's no traffic control and I get a green light and they're turning and I end up in the middle of this parade, I don't even know what's going on. And all of a sudden I'm in the middle of a parade, and it's like the common courtesy with a funeral procession. You don't break the procession, but obviously there would be people on the road not even knowing what's going on that might end up in the middle of a parade and just feel like, what is going on and what is happening? I'm just trying to get to Berkeley or something. So these are all issues that I'm raising.
Selectman Goulart.
Yeah.
So I cannot respond. I don't have answers to all those questions.
No, I'm just throwing them out there.
Yep. I do want to respond to your specific question of conduct. I think that, so we cannot and should not be in patrol of, or in control, or try to control what people say. I know that's not what you're saying, Selectman Goulart. Just let me finish here. I know you support free speech. What I think will help that issue is not permitting the parade during the same time another planned event that was planned before the parade is going on. That will relieve some of the potential political tension. So that is why I suggested that in the beginning. That's the only point I wanted to respond to. Did anyone want to speak to Selectman Goulart's concerns? I know there was a lot there. There were many questions, so.
This is Jonathan, and actually, I don't necessarily want to speak to it, but I'm going to ask through the chief for this to comment on what I'm going to say or ask, which is, we are a small police department. As the chief said, there was just, was it 1 or 2 officers on duty Saturday morning, and forget about the fact that, yes, they're taken up to do this from other things that could occur in town, regardless of the political party that's involved. My concern is also this, honestly, the safety of the police officer or officers, because we're a small town. If that officer had tried to tell a group of at least 135 cars, which could have been a couple of hundred individuals, you can't do this because you don't have a permit or because of X, Y, or Z, that could have escalated and put the police officer significantly at risk, regardless of the political party, again. And same situation. I'd like to hear what the chief feels is a mitigation factor, not only for the residents, but for the safety of the police officers, because that has to be, right up there with everything else.
Mr. Gale, I think the only thing I would say, you raise good points that the chief can certainly, if you'd like to weigh in on. My only thing would be, that's why I'm saying, when the organizer first contacts the police department, if that's department they contact, at that point, when they explain that it's a parade, they don't wait for the parade to form to tell them that they need a permit. They would tell them over the phone days before the event was planned. So it's more of a proactive, we, have our ducks in a row. Here's the boxes you need to check in order for this peaceable event to occur.
And Brett, I understand that. My concern is even if there was a permit issued in advance, or suppose the permit is denied in advance because of exactly what you're suggesting. If it's denied, then the assumption is that the organizer would get the word out to, if there were supposed to be 60, all 60 participants, that there's no permit. But what in this case, if the other 75 still showed up because the word didn't get out to everyone? That puts everyone at risk because nobody's expecting or anticipating anything to occur. So, I'd like to hear the chief's thoughts on this going, with regard to the safety factor, starting with the officers and what the potential risks are.
I'm not sure what you're trying to ask or get at. Are you saying that if there's no permit, the officer's responsibility is tell them they can't have a rally? Is that what you're trying to get at? Or you're saying that
I'm asking for
there
both.
is a permit?
Chief, I'm saying both. Let's start with the no permit. If there's a no permit and a number of people, you get a report that a number of people are gathering for a parade, and an officer shows up and says, you can't do it, there's no permit. But the officer is potentially faced with 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 vehicles, and how many people there, that could escalate very quickly with just one or two officers there trying to enforce a no parade order. And, what's the support and the backup for that potentially? And then secondly, if there is a parade, I'm going to take it the other way now. If there is a parade, again, if you've got a larger number than expected, there's a risk not just to potential residents, but there's a risk to officers as well. And what's the mitigating plan potentially if these things occur?
Well, the first question, if there's no permit, I don't think, and the officers get there and they're there and the officer, I don't think he'd be aware if there was a permit or not a permit. That comes through the town, that they issue the permits. He's not going to go on there and say, hey, you have a permit. That's never happened before. No one's ever done that. But let's say it does, and they have no permit, and he would explain to them that you cannot have this rally, this parade. You have to have a permit before you start this. And most of the time, people will call here and want to do this, and of course they're supposed to have a permit to do things like this. But for this instance, the woman didn't do that. And if he ran into a problem and they were there, he would call for assistance from Taunton. If he needed help, we would call Rehoboth. We would call some mutual aid if there was going to be a problem, if it started. That's how we would operate there.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Z?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry. Selectman Goulart, then Madam Administrator, and then Mr. Rhines. Selectman Goulart?
When, first of all, if a permit were issued, the police department would have a copy of it, so the officers on duty would know. By the same token, if no permit were issued, the police department would be notified by the Board of Selectmen that there is no permit for this event. But just talking about peaceful, multiple person events, when I think of all the rides we've had in town, including the Pan Mass, 5,000 or more bikers, and I realize they're spread out in patches so that traffic can be stopped and a bunch go by and traffic moves and then traffic stops. I realize all that. But all of those events give us advance notice and request permission. Obviously, we don't charge for a permit for charitable bike rides and things like that. And especially the PMC, we have fortunately and thankfully, we have public safety officers, police, fire, ambulance, whatever is needed, who volunteer their time and who are strategically placed to handle that number of bike riders and everything else. I would think that a parade of individuals with expressing their opinions on whatever should be handled in a similar fashion so that it is peaceful, so that it's not confrontational, so they can drive by and get out their messages. So I really think it would be worthwhile to meet with the organizer just so that he, she, whoever it is, or they, understand the concerns. And I certainly echo what Mr. Gale said, that with or without a permit, 2 police officers trying to tell a group of people, you can't do that, and they're all in vehicles. This isn't like stopping bike riders. And so I really think that if a permit is required, which everyone seems to think it is, and I agree, and it's issued, there has to be concern for not only the officers on the detail to escort that parade, but also the officers who are on duty doing their regularly assigned shift that day for the purpose of protecting the people in the town of Dayton from the usual things.
Can I ask the group a question? Oh, no, Madam Administrator, I'm sorry. And then Mr. Rhines.
Okay, I apologize.
Nope, I
I
apologize.
just have 3 things to say. The first, is the board amenable for the department heads that are not involved in this? Like, is the department head meeting portion of this meeting adjourned that they could head out, or do you
Yep,
want
they
them?
can leave at any time. I'm sorry, I should have, yeah, I mean, I just, right, once we started taking the votes on the events, I figured people would just trickle out as they want. This is a public meeting, you don't have to leave, so you can certainly stay. But you are by no means obligated to. So please, if you want to leave, absolutely feel free. Thank you, Madam Administrator.
My second comment is before Mr. Gale's comments, but it was to ask if we are proactively going to reach out to the event organizer. We sort of went in a roundabout way to this. But proactively reach out to the event organizer, get the dates, inform her of our bylaw, which is Article 7, Section 10, that requires a permit if you're going to obstruct the roadway in this manner. And then when the board does vote on permits, if they are allowed, many times you'll provide stipulations with those, and one could be a mandated detail or whatever other concern that you may have. So I was just asking if we are going to proactively do that, and if you were aware that this schedule was, that I think you said every Saturday until November.
That's what I heard. I do not know. I do not
So
know.
if that's happening, so I would like to just chat with her and get everything going so that people can exercise their rights, but do it according to our bylaws.
Sure.
And I
Can I
forgot
ask you another question before your, I think, 3rd or 4th point?
I forgot my 3rd thing, so.
Okay. Do you agree that if there is some other political event that's already been planned and then another event is planned in response, that the other event should not be permitted for the same date and time?
I don't really agree with that, because how do you pick and choose? You might get, it's a political thing, so it's a First Amendment right. It's their right to,
okay,
for anybody and a right to assemble.
But that right doesn't say that you have to have express it at this specific date and time and place, Madam Administrator.
Agreed.
So why wouldn't we, in the interest of, just de-escalating any potential tensions, why wouldn't we be proactive about it?
I just don't agree that it's the right thing to do. I think you'd get yourself into some tricky legal recourse.
If we grant the permit, but just not during that specific date and time, you're saying we're somehow, do you care to elaborate on that?
You'd have to have a very good reason for not permitting one group over another. I mean, this could be.
But we are permitting it, but we would be in my example.
But I'm sorry?
We would be permitting it. I'm just giving an example. We would be permitting it, just not during a time when we know another group would be out there.
Are they in the same location or are they in different locations? I guess is really the crux of it.
Well, one group, just to give you an example, one group planned a drive-by knowing the other group was there. So it's like in direct response. So I'm just looking out for, to make everything so we can all coexist, basically. Selectman Goulart?
I agree. I was concerned when you first mentioned this. I don't think we can say to somebody, Group A is going to be at this intersection during this period of time, 8 to 9 o'clock, whatever. And you can do your parade from 9:30 to how long ever long it takes you to get through this part of town. I think we're just, if we're setting up those kind of conditions, as we've seen wherever, whether it's Taunton Green or Boston, there's always two groups. The main thing is, hopefully, they both express their opinions peacefully, but I don't think we can say, you can't be here when Group A is here, or if Group B gets scheduled first. The other thing I would mention is, as I said earlier, I think we need to meet with the organizer or organizers, as Mallory said. I really think we need to check with the state to find out and say to them, we have these scheduled, a group has requested permission to come through town in a parade fashion on the following dates, multiple weekends. Does the state have any concern, or do we need permission or whatever? Because if there is an accident or an event, or somebody's trying to exit their driveway and something happens, part of that route is a state highway. And as I said, the town of Dayton couldn't even have a parade for its anniversary without getting permission. And that has always been the case. Memorial Day is another one, when we used to march on that. So I realize this is a faster moving parade, if that's what it is called, but it is on a state highway for part of it. And I really think we need to know from the state, do you have anything, or is this strictly a local issue that the Board of Selectmen should deal with? Just so that the Board of Selectmen in the town of Dayton is acting within all of the rules and regs that may be out there because of this state road. But so anyhow, just to think about.
So can someone clarify for me? Because I feel like I'm really confused. Maybe it's you, Madam Administrator, you'll clarify for me. So back in June, Selectman Goulart voted against the permit for the rally that was happening in Dayton. So if we're talking about treating two groups fairly, if Selectman Goulart, and I'm just using you as an example, Selectman Goulart, if Selectman Goulart were to then approve this parade permit, is she, like, can people not say that the two groups weren't treated fairly? How does that work?
No, because my issue that I stated clearly about the permit at the, I'll call it at Town Hall, the sidewalk, whatever. The only reason I voted no was my concerns of safety.
I have
Now,
safety concerns for the other people. There was a lot of tension there.
I have concerns about the people who were standing on the sidewalk or wherever you were on Center Street that you were cussed at or were called names. I think it's important that both, whatever side, two sides, three sides, whoever's got opinions on all of this, have the opportunity to express those opinions. I still have a concern about safety. And I didn't realize that when the parade came through town, there was sort of a confrontation. And I'm referring again to the name calling and swearing. And so if this group comes before the Board of Selectmen with the request for a permit for multiple dates or one date or whatever, I am certainly not going to say, you can't come through our town on a state highway and use public roads. They're going to hopefully keep moving, and it's not the same as a gathering where the concern was, and there was history around us, that when there were gatherings, whether on Taunton Green or whatever, there were real concerns about it turning into something other than a peaceful demonstration with two sides expressing opinion. That's my concern. I certainly don't look forward to, if we permit a parade, people coming through town again, swearing at people standing on sidewalks exercising their right of voting for whoever. All right. So that's the difference.
For me, it's a distinction without a difference. Does anyone else? I think we had public input, and we can go back if anyone has anything else. Actually, before Mrs. Duszkowski, before I think Mr. Rhines had something. Mr. Rhines?
Yes, if I may, Dr. Gravis, since
Sure.
this is open to the public, I'm speaking just as a resident of town. When I worked construction for aggregate industries back in 1995, and we did Route 138 over again, the state law states that you can only stop traffic for no more than 5 minutes. And that's what happens. We stopped traffic for 5 minutes. The police officers did. So I'm just going to put that out there. That's just, I think that they should have been issued a permit, just like it says in our bylaws, like anybody else. We should not be picking and choosing whoever they may be. And let's just get this figured out. That's all.
And Mr. Rhines, that's exactly why when we were going to have a town parade, we needed special permission because we were going to tie up the road for more than 5 minutes, whether it's Memorial Day or our anniversary. So yeah, I understand.
Thank you. And also Chief McDonald, he worked the details right alongside me when I was mixing concrete in that wheelbarrow. So he knows exactly what I'm referring to.
Ms. Duszkowski, did you have public input you wanted to provide? You have the floor.
I do, thank you.
Mhm.
I just want to start off by making it clear that I have a huge amount of respect for our police department and law enforcement officers in general. Every time I've called on them in Dayton, whether it's for traffic violations in front of my house, and I live on 138, they respond quickly and appropriately. I have a child with special needs who repeatedly the buses were passed by vehicles. And my kids and I were very excited to tour the new facility when it opened. And we were excited to go down there and buy the autism awareness patches that were available. That's a cause that's near and dear to my heart. On Saturday, I was participating in the sign holding event, and I was very distressed by the behavior that I witnessed by people driving specifically as part of the Trump Trade Parade. I think the rest of the general public who are driving by either waved politely or just didn't acknowledge us at all. But those participating in the parade were swearing at us. They said, "I hate you, MFers." They were leaning out of their windows, shaking their fists at us. And it made me wonder who had paid for the police detail and who had sanctioned the parade. And it sort of made me feel like the safety of those participating in the parade was more of a concern than those of us standing on the sidewalk. And I don't think that that was the intention. But we have to realize that it's not always about intention. We may have intended to protect safety and it came out wrong, but the consequence was that it looked and it appeared that our police department was taking a political side and supporting that parade versus supporting the people on the sidewalks that were getting yelled at. So I would agree, and I'm very appreciative of all of our select board members here today and what they're saying about having a permit, paying for the detail. And I really would love to see if there's a way to pursue or look into decorum or public decency standards, because, to Selectman Goulart's point, you cannot just roll down the road and lean out your car window and scream at people and say, whatever you want. That's not freedom of speech. That's, you're disrupting the peace at that point. And so I would like to see that be enforced going forward. Thank you very much for hearing me.
So to get back to what the town administrator said, Mallory, would you just reiterate, we got to take steps to get at least to a meeting or your meeting, somebody meeting with the organizers so that they understand the concerns that have been raised. And the other thing too is these are going through our quiet towns, neighborhoods. And certainly the people who live along the routes, they hear the noise, they look out, that's fine. But hopefully if there is a political sign in one of their yards that's not the candidate they're supporting, I don't want them to be yelled at or sworn at or anything else. So, Mallory, could you just go through the steps that we need to take again, please?
Sure, so I'd like to contact the organizer and explain to her that Brett is speaking.
So first, I think what needs to happen, I have no idea how I got muted, is before we start planning a meeting with the organizer, we need to know if there's even another event planned. If there's not another event planned, then I think this is all a moot point.
But we have to talk to the organizer to know that, right?
Yes, correct. So
So
can you
I was
reach out
gonna,
and see if an event is planned?
I'm gonna ask her.
Okay, perfect.
And then if the answer is yes, I'll explain that we have a bylaw that relates to this and these are the steps that she has to do. And then previously to another group that utilized our property for a peaceful demonstration, that group was informed and very, very willingly and proactively explained the standards of decorum for that event. And that will be impressed upon this, this resident as well, because at the end of the day, I unfortunately am not, but you're all Daytonians. You all live in this community and fractures are good for nobody. So we're just gonna get through this election, I guess. With a pandemic looming, we're just in it.
Sounds good. And is everybody amenable to that? Selectman Goulart?
Yes, I have one other request. Bob, are you still with us?
He's there.
I am, Selectman
Okay.
Goulart.
I expressed my concerns about the bridge and the speed limit. Is it possible that we could have a cruiser down there on our side? And could you request Berkeley have one? Because my concern is, number one, speed crossing the bridge. Number two, there's a park right on the other side of the bridge that is used by a lot of people. And if it's on a Saturday or a whatever, my concern is you've got all this traffic coming from Dayton. And if they're moving along, I certainly don't want anything to happen on the other side immediately at the park because of all this traffic. And so my only request would be basically enforcement, but at least let Berkeley know ahead of time that if an event is scheduled that we know about, that they're aware, just as a courtesy to the neighboring town.
Yes, well, I can do that, Selectman. That won't be a problem at all.
Thank you.
I'll take care of that.
Does anybody else have anything else? Because it sounds like we're all on the same page. Selectman Pacheco, did you have anything you wanted to add, sir? You are muted on your phone. Now you're unmuted.
Now I'm unmuted. Yes, the only comment I want to make is that if they come before us for a permit, we can decide at that time whether or not another group is also going to be out there. I don't think it's a cut and dry issue. I would like to research it a little bit more, but I tend to think that maybe both groups have a right to have their political statements out there. So I'll check it out further myself.
Selectman Pacheco, and I wanted to be clear. I was not saying that one group has a right and the other does not. I just want to make sure that both groups are able to express themselves peacefully. That's all, without fear of recrimination or reprisal or derogatory statements. We're all in politics, right? Selectman Pacheco, Selectman Goulart, like we get the rough and tumble, we get the broad shoulders, Madam Administrator, you too. We all get it. And I want to leave it at this because I feel like we've come to a good place, but there were elderly women there. There were elderly gentlemen there. There were very young kids there. No, I wasn't looking at you, Selectman Pacheco. And I guess my point is, and to be fair, there were young and old people in the parade. I just want to make sure we can coexist in the same little town. And you know, we can all have our beliefs and that's fine, that's good. But we just need to be respectful of one another, that's all.
And keep everybody safe. That's
Yep.
everybody's
Dr.
safe.
Z?
Yes, Chief.
Yes, just one question. The people who were standing at the corner, how many, off the top of your head, how many people were standing there? Were there a lot of people or
Yeah, it was like 30 at the height, I would say. 30 people
30?
max.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got a question. If the group was at the Main Street intersection, would the parade have gone all the way to Somerset, or was it
Ooh, I know.
convenient for them to come down, to go south on 138 and I'll say encounter the people at Center Street and then turn left and go over the bridge?
Yeah, they had my understanding, and again, I know the organizer a little bit, and she's a very nice person. I think that they ended up having a some sort of a standout in Berkeley, so that's why they went that way, and then they got to the Berkeley Common and they had their own standout.
Okay.
Yep. Chief, everything good on your end?
I am fine, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Anybody have anything else before we adjourn? It sounds like we may, depending on if there's another event planned, Madam Administrator, we may have to meet with the organizer and also, discuss a permit. So more to come on that, but it sounds like we're all in agreement. And I just want to thank everyone for coming together. I know this is like a tricky conversation to have. But I think we did it well, and I think we all have come to a place of understanding on this, which is good. With that being said, if there's no further discussion, I will entertain motions to adjourn.
So moved. Excuse me. So moved.
I'm waiting for that second. Don't worry.
Is Ken muted?
Yes, he's trying. He was just unmuted too. I will Selectman Goulart, Madam, can I step down and second this? Okay, I will step down and so we can get out of this meeting. I will step down and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We got a thumbs up from Selectman Pacheco for the record. Thank you, everyone. Madam Administrator, thank you. Chief, thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful rest of the day.